Hello and welcome to AM Prime here on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. Thank you very much for joining me this morning for this edition of the program. Now, yesterday morning we started by speaking to Mr. Andy Johnson, veteran journalist, who was actually present at the flag-raising ceremony following the signing of the Treaty of Chaguaramas in 1973, exactly 50 years ago when CARICOM was formed. Now, one of the things coming from the Prime Minister's speech that he mentioned was that there is a need to educate the young people of the Caribbean about the importance and relevance of CARICOM. A bigger question arose though. Is CARICOM relevant? Do young people actually understand why CARICOM is important, and what do they think of it? Whether or not it is beneficial to be a part of this union, whether regional integration is something that can be achieved, and how is it going to help young people in this ever-evolving globe? Well, I'm joined by a former local, regional, and Commonwealth youth parliamentarian. No stranger to WESN, but I suppose it's refreshing to see his face and hear his voice after quite some time. Mr. Camille Pascal is with me via Zoom. Hello, Camille. Good to see you.
Good morning, Keaton. Good morning to all of viewers and listeners this morning. It is my pleasure to be here.
Camille, thank you very much for joining me. Now, from your perspective, if you sat in youth parliaments locally, regionally, within the Commonwealth, that question about the relevancy of CARICOM to young people, do young people actually understand what CARICOM is and why CARICOM is important?
No, not at all. And let me tell you why. There obviously needs to be more education surrounding it. And I'll say this because at the primary school level, you learn about CARICOM and that Trinidad and Tobago is a part of CARICOM and that kind of thing. But outside of that, you don't hear a whole lot, save and except for when they are meeting at their annual meetings or their meetings every 6 months or whatever is the case. So obviously, people are not, the youth would not be aware of what CARICOM is if we don't educate them and bring them up to speed as to what exactly CARICOM is and what the work of CARICOM really is.
But why do you think, from your perspective, I mean somebody who has been in the mix of it all, why do you think CARICOM is important, especially for young people in this ever-developing world and in the Caribbean that is facing innumerable challenges, as mentioned by multiple leaders at this CARICOM 45th General Meeting?
Well, one, obviously, CARICOM is important because of the history of CARICOM and how it came together. And if people were to just do, or the youth rather, were to just do a quick deep dive into how CARICOM came about and what really is the significance of CARICOM, what is the work of CARICOM, what CARICOM is tasked with doing, I think then they would begin to appreciate the importance of CARICOM. And as I mentioned before, obviously, beginning to appreciate that is one, knowing and having knowledge about what CARICOM does and its work. And so I think that's where things need to take perspective and to take shape.
Is regional integration something that is absolutely crucial for young people? I know we're mentioning the importance and precisely what CARICOM is for, what is its purpose. But young people today are more concerned with their future. How am I going to survive tomorrow in a world that I don't know what I'm going to wake up to? You know, where am I going to be next? What is coming down the road? Part of the bigger issue is regional integration. It was mentioned. Is the sense of not being able to fully achieve that perhaps one of the reasons why there is a lack of knowledge or education?
I believe so, because I think if we had a much more integrated community, and that'd be in the CARICOM community, and the youth were able to understand, or are able to understand that here's what, I mean, although now you could still live under the single market and economy, you can go on to another country within the Caribbean and work once you have your CVQs and your relevant CXC certificates or degrees or whatever is the case. I think if we were more integrated, especially by way of travel, and it was much more easier to go to another Caribbean island, another CARICOM island, then I think we would begin to really appreciate, or youth rather, begin to further appreciate what CARICOM is and how integrated or not integrated we are.
If we were to focus on the leaders within CARICOM, we will see that there are those who are there within the political hemisphere for decades. I mean, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Raleigh acknowledged his time in politics. He even made a joke that is not as long as the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. But if we take a look at it's really the Prime Minister of Grenada who is, fairly new, I suppose, to politics, Dick and Mitchell. But is that also one of the issues that perhaps our leaders are there for so long that there's not as a greater for youth influence as should be?
Yes, I would say so, and I would also say that, as you mentioned, lack of a youth voice. When all these discussions are happening in CARICOM, I don't know that in Trinidad and Tobago that our Prime Minister or Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs comes to the youth and asks for their input on matters relating to CARICOM and the way in which Trinidad and Tobago should approach things. Maybe it's because they probably think that we do have much of a international relations background, or we're not aware of the things that are happening. But I think it's important that the youth do have a voice and do have a say in the matter of what CARICOM is, the direction that it goes. And especially going forward over the next 50 years as we go towards 100.
Well, let's speak about going forward over the next 50 years and what you think needs to be done. I know you mentioned the inclusion of more youth perspectives, more youth voices, and having them a part of the discussions. But beyond just discussions, where do you think, what areas do you think need a greater improvement or greater collaboration over the next 50 years?
Well, let's start right at travel. That's a major bug for people across all islands, across all member states of CARICOM, even the observer member states. Travel is ridiculous. And so we cannot begin to talk about integration or anything relating to integration or becoming more or form of a collaborative approach if we are not able to simply travel. Let's look at Grenada. Grenada is our closest, Grenada and Guyana, two of our closest CARICOM islands, and just look at the cost of travel to go to Grenada at times, different times of the year. Sometimes you're not even able to travel. Sometimes it's easier to go to Miami and then come back to Grenada. And so if we're looking at integration, that's the first bug that we need to fix. Matters relating to being able to go to another, not just go to another island state, but go there and be able to fully integrate and immerse yourself by way of not just education, but by many other things. And I think going forward over the next 50 years, those are important things that we need to most definitely look at, and look at the way in which we map out. Where we look at things like trade. For example, how hard or not so hard in some instances it is for businesses and companies to be able to get their products on the shelves in other countries, whether it be like issues in Ghana where you have local content and all those different kind of things. And so if we are going to be talking about integration and going forward for the next 50 years, then we need to look at trade, we need to look at travel. Yeah?
Yeah. But these are issues that have been identified. We're constantly speaking about them. It is mentioned that we are a part of EMPAS. EMPAS exists, and yet regional travel has been an issue. It's a burden, it's a pain, rather than an ease. So all these issues have been identified, but why has there been a lack of action, or at least a lack of willingness to act upon these issues that have been identified?
I think it's not that there has been a lack of willingness. I think they have acted upon it or begun to act upon it, but it hasn't been followed through. Because you hear about travel stuff all the time, things relating to travel. Things relating to travel, for example, you would have heard the President rather of Ghana 2 days ago saying they're looking at ferry service and furthering talks on that. But then you heard our Prime Minister saying, what is the cost of the subvention, or what would be the cost of the subvention to a service like that going forward in the future? And I mean, I think things should not be shut down or struck down if there hasn't been enough consensus and talk around it. Because I think the people of the region are and would be willing to partake of in a regional ferry service because of the fact that airline travel is so difficult, even right here within the region. Mm-hmm. So I think it's one that is an issue of things that we don't follow through. We things would have been proposed. I can remember, I can't remember as a matter of fact, this ferry service would have first been spoken by Kamala Prasad-Bisesa in 2013, and that's how long. We are 10 years down the road. CARICOM would have been 40 at the time, and now we're still speaking about it 10 years later. No substantial work has been done on that particular issue.
So then, does CARICOM represent opportunity or just another acronym?
Well, I mean, I don't want to strap down everything as if we haven't made strides, and even Dr. Rowley would have mentioned that at the opening of the conference, I believe it was either day before yesterday or yesterday. Day before yesterday, sorry. And he would have spoken about the fact that, yes, we have faced challenges, but that isn't to say that we have not been able to do stuff as a region or been able to achieve stuff as a region. So I don't want it to be said that, I'm just speaking about our issues and stuff. It's that we have been able to achieve stuff. But I think we could do even much more as a region.
Mm-hmm. The question of sovereignty always arises when we speak about fulfilling regional integration. Even when you take a look at CSME, for example, that falls under CARICOM. Many countries, and this is not just something that is only for the Caribbean, but globally, do not want to give up much more of their sovereignty in order to be fully a part of such unions or such multilateral agreements. With that being said, is that a sacrifice that is becoming necessary more and more that the world is changing?
Well, yes, I think that's one of the items that we need to look at as a region and as developing small island states or sovereignty, because we, in many instances, we don't have the capital to fund projects within our region, to fund things as those in the G20s, and they are able to do it, and the G7s are able to do it. And so it's one of those things that we do, one of those items that we really need to pay close attention to. Because in signing off on, let's say, loans and financial guarantees for a region, debt service, and all those things, we need to look at them and the way in which we service, because 50 years down the road, we don't want to end up with an island belonging to some far-off country because 50 years ago we didn't put enough things in place to ensure that we are able to remain sovereign and we are able to remain standing on our own.
Mm-hmm. Beyond that, another issue that has always been identified, if you'd like to classify it as an issue, but it is an argument as to why there hasn't been the full implementation of CARICOM, and that is the mere fact that the Caribbean is so diverse in terms of its people. There's so many cultures, so many ethnicities. That mixture may present a problem. Would you agree with that, or do you think that is something that's very easy to overcome?
No, not at all. I believe it's very easy to overcome. I think once relevant education and all of that goes with it is there. Let people know what you all are doing. It's not that you all could just come together every 6 months or ever so often that you all have a meeting and you all decide on decisions, or you all make decisions rather unilaterally. Let people have a say. And I think once people of the region are able to have a say in the matter and are able to understand what you all are putting forth, it's one of those things that we can and will achieve further regional integration. We are CARICOM. We have done so many significant things over the last 50 years, even leading up to today. And I think it's important that we further on items like integration and, as you mentioned, CSME and all those things, because I still don't know that CSME has been unraveled in its full potential.
Mm-hmm. Kemi, your closing thoughts. I mean, yesterday, the leaders around the Caribbean, leaders who are part of CARICOM, made their way to Shag Ramos, where there was the flag raising ceremony. A time capsule has been established to be opened in another 50 years' time. What would you like to see, or what do you think would have been suggested by leaders in that time capsule to be opened in 50 years' time?
Actually, just this morning, I was actually thinking about that and wondering what it would be like down the road. I mean, I don't want to kill anybody, but I'm just saying that one likely these leaders of today may not be here 50 years from now to be able to hear what they would have stated now and the direction in which CARICOM has gone, or will be going rather, over the next 50 years. So I think it's rather interesting. It would be rather interesting to see 50 years from now what they would have stated in that particular capsule on those particular notes. But I would say in closing, though, I really thought that there would have been much more fanfare around CARICOM turning 50. As a matter of fact, some of our fellow CARICOM states would have, or islands rather, would have given one-off holidays. I thought that Trinidad and Tobago would have done the same. I mean, some celebrated yesterday, and Barbados is set to celebrate their own at the end of this month. So I really thought that there would have been much more fanfare, much more advertising. It's been 50 years that CARICOM has now has been around now, and I really thought that we would have seen much more and a much more people-centered approach as opposed to leaders, whereby each country should have been able to do something. Even right here in Trinidad and Tobago, there should have been a much more events as opposed to the 5Ks and all those different things that they would have held over the weekend.
Very interesting point indeed, Camille, with regards to the fanfare surrounding it and the celebrations and festivities surrounding CARICOM. I wonder if that in itself speaks to our understanding or perhaps even our position. But excellent point, Camille. I want to thank you very much for joining me this morning on the program to share your thoughts and opinions from a youth perspective. Of course, that has become absolutely necessary and crucial to the future of any organization. But as it seems, there needs to be more inclusion from the youth. That is not necessarily taking place right now. Camille, have a great day, my friend. All the very best. And you never know, there may be more festivities to come.
Sure. All right, Keaton, have a great day. Thank you so very much for having me.
Take care, Camille. Good to see you again. Camille Avery O'Keefe Pascal joining me on AM Prime this morning. I haven't said that in a long time, have I? Anyway, all the best, and thank you very much for joining me as the CARICOM 45th General Meeting. That comes to an end today as CARICOM leaders make their way back home. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a break here on AM Prime. We'll be right back after this.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on WhatsApp Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
WhatsApp Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN Content Capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Coming up on Nicole Larson Live. It was in 2018 where something happened.
I got a call. It was the third day. He said, let me tell you what you're going to hear tomorrow. Tomorrow you're going to hear that they have found him. He has floated to the top. He would be decomposed. He would be smelling awful. And I'm listening to him on the phone because he is just giving me the cold, hard facts.
Even though it takes time, time alone will not heal. You cannot heal what you do not acknowledge.
The unconscious socializing is what we need to check, because I was just doing it to avoid being home. I don't want to be in the bedroom because it's not the same anymore.
You can be happy, hurting, and healing all at the same time.
I choose to have gratitude. My soul is safe with Christ. I choose to be, yeah, the grateful one.
An encore of Nicole Larson Live, living in victory every day. Airing on WESN, the content capital, on Sunday, July 2nd at 8 p.m. Don't you miss it.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
Welcome back to AM Prime, and thank you for staying with us this morning. My next interview takes a look at one Trinidad or former Trinidad artist who's turned to life of Christianity. In a bold move, former artist of the Sixth Movement, Javon Lepere, known as Joey Tun, has embraced Christianity, renouncing the lifestyle of Trinidad culture. Joey Tun was 28 years old when 28 years old, was one of three members of the Sixth group, the others being Kyle George, known as Rebel 6, and Quinton Thomas, or K Lion, who unfortunately passed away. The Sixth Movement emerged locally as part of the dancehall culture by the Jamaican G-City Gang and the artist Squash, founder of the Sixth Real Movement. So my next guest, of course, is Mr. Javon Lepere. He's with us via Zoom. Good morning, Mr. Lepere. Thank you very much.
Hi, this morning.
Mr. Lepere, I'd like to start by asking you your association with Trinidad music, as it is popularly known as. Precisely how did you get involved in this genre of music? In fact, was it ever meant to be even referred to as Trinidad music?
Well, yes, I started Trinidad music at 2019. It wasn't really planned. It was just like, singing and just getting into, our movement, which we call Trinidad. Then it was the sex movement, which originated from Jamaica, and we took that movement, and ran with it down here, and it became a gang and stuff, and yeah.
You said that your first few songs were actually positive in nature, but you realized that that positive music wasn't necessarily being embraced?
It wasn't.
And do you think because of that, it has fueled this association with gangs and gang members?
Yes, I believe so, because, Trinidad only gravitate to more, explicit content music, not really the positive side of music.
Mm-hmm. Now, you recognize this from very early on. I mean, you've openly said that in a conversation with your friend, who unfortunately passed away, that's Rebel 6, you realized that something was not feeling right. Precisely what was going through your mind during such conversations?
Well, at that moment, I was, getting a lot of bad feelings in my spirit, and I believe it wasn't just out of coincidence, but it was more of a warning. And I used to be getting a lot of death feelings in my spirit, and I've been watching it as a warning. And it's so warned Rebel 6 and K Lion before they die, about the feeling I was getting, and in no time, it was like they passed away. And it's like literally today, make it 3 years that Rebel 6 died.
Attending the funerals of your friends, what was the impact of knowing that you three came together, formed this group, hoping for something positive? That positivity wasn't necessarily being embraced, and you're now attending, the funerals of your friends and your colleagues, even after these gut feelings, as you've just mentioned. What impact did that have on you in terms of, your lifestyle, the association with Trinidad music?
Well, firstly, I did not went to any funeral. I couldn't stomach going to their funerals because it's like a foresee it was coming. So I couldn't stomach going to their funerals, and it made a great impact on me because, it's like I saw it was coming. So it was a big, surprise for me.
So is it that you're sorry, go on, continue.
Yeah, it was like a big surprise, and it just like shocked me at the moment, and I just like literally made a quick transformation, like fast.
Mm-hmm. You're essentially, this darkness and negativity that you speak of prevailed itself in the music.
Yes, it did. Yes, of course. The music has like a great dark entity, behind it. And it's real. A lot of people, like to, sugarcoat and, but it's real. It's real.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of dark entities within the music industry.
Let's move now to your conversion to Christianity, and you have described all the thoughts, all the feelings, everything that you were witnessing and experiencing. But what is it that was, I suppose, the coup de grace in you turning to Christianity? What was that one final movement that said, this is what I need to do and this is what I want to do?
Okay, after Rebel 6 died, couple days after, I felt death upon my life. And it's very hard to explain to people, because it's sort of a weird, it's just weird, because I've been smoking since I was like teenager, and when I reached 26 years old, we end up into the music industry and stuff. So it was like, no, smoking, drinking, all of these things. And after Rebel 6 death, it was like uncomfortable. Every single thing that I was comfortable with became uncomfortable. And that one particular night, I was smoking and I felt like a dark entity fall upon me. And I almost felt like I getting a heart attack, and it wasn't normal at all. And it's like within that moment I was like losing my life, because I felt like my soul pulled out of my body. All of these things was like, it was just like I was in a whole different trance, so to speak. And from that night, I got to realize that it was the smoking and the drinking was making me felt uncomfortable now. So I believe, that was my calling upon my life, because I was smoking and drinking since I was a teenager, 14, 15 years old. And I just started to feel uncomfortable with everything. And I almost got a heart attack that night. And I just like threw away all the drugs, everything. And when I try it again, and I've been trying it again, it's like the same feeling was coming upon me. And I make up my mind, I drop everything, pick up my Bible, and it's like, I just was like, following what God was doing in my life.
Is it that you felt as though you had no choice but to leave the Trinidad movement? Is it that you felt as though you had no choice but to embrace Christianity?
Of course, no choice. Of course, it's like literally death. If I did not make that change, that sudden transformation, I truly believe I would have died.
Mm-hmm. This newfound awareness that you have just spoken about, precisely what is it that you're doing different now, apart from your movement away from Trinidad music?
Well, it's just more than music about now, because I came into, the gospel industry also, and, it's like, I have to be real, like, very honest here, it's basically the same. The only difference within the music industry is one singing secular music and the other singing gospel music, which is for God, and I saw the same patterns, the same you know, the same everything. It's just the music different. And I started to get more frightened because I was like, you know, if this is, you know, the gospel industry, this should be different. And it was like literally the same. So, you know, the Lord been speaking to me, you know, and he showed me it's more than just music. And he shift my music to ministry, which is, you know, preaching and stuff and sharing the word of the gospel.
Were you welcomed with open arms into the Christian faith?
I wouldn't say so. No. They treated me like an outcast. I must be real. You know, I can't lie about it.
Why do you think that is the case? Because of your association? Because we're constantly hearing, you know, convert to Christianity, move to a life of Christ, but why do you think you were not openly embraced?
I believe that is my past, you know, my past life, because, you know, Christians have a tendency of not all does judge, but, you know, majority have that nature in them. You know, when they see somebody make a transformation, it's like, you know, they just tend to, you know, like judge you still upon, you know, your past life, because they probably never really, you know, had a testimony the way you know, have one. So it's like they have a tendency of just like judging you because they do not watch you as a new person. They just like literally judge you on what you came from. So there is where I believe, you know, they never really open up their arms and accepted me.
Now that you're out of, you know, the Trinidad movement, when you look back at your lifestyle and reflect upon it previously, do you have any regrets? Do you blame yourself for anything at all? Or is that something that you needed to go through, something that you had to go through in order for you to shift your life, according to you, to a more positive direction?
Yes, definitely. I had was to go through the fire. I had was to get burned. I had was to go through it, you know, for God to open up my eyes and mold me to be this individual today, alive, you know, to you know, share my testimony to others and also walk as a living testimony to be a light to those that trying to come out of that darkness. So I would definitely say, I have no regrets. I just thank God that I am alive today, that I could be a living testimony to look back and see where God pulled me from to you know, this present moment, that I could just be a living testimony to others.
Is this change easy? There have been those who have made the argument that this Trinidad culture, Trinidad music, is actually a reflection of how society truly is now. It's actually a music of defense. It's actually an expression of what people are feeling, their true feelings. If that is the case, is there nothing wrong with being associated with Trinidad music?
I wouldn't say, okay, people have a saying that music is just entertainment, and you know, a lot of people just like to go by that and sugarcoat it, but music is literally a life giver and a life taker, because, you know, music is literally an entity that gives lives, or it takes lives, or, you know, because music is very powerful, and there's nothing good about Trinidad, you know. And I could say that as I can speak for everybody, I can speak for the whole entertainment, because I've been in it. I saw everything I saw how dark it was. I saw, but just trying to sugarcoat it as a movement for Trinidad because it's like something new to Trinidad, and it became so popular so fast that, a lot of people just run with it as it's something good, but it's nothing good because a lot of lives is being taken. Trinidad majority, 99% of Trinidad artists is literally under the influence of a gang. So I wouldn't say there's anything, good about it because it's like, we come like we are representing a gang. And, it literally that. It's like literally gangs. So
were you ever under the influence of a gang, or were you ever influential within a gang?
I've been, a part of it, like just being around criminals, gangsters, killers. I've been doing some stuff, that was not, but I thank God, for opening my eyes today so I could look around and realize, where God put me from and stuff.
Is it easy to get out? Is it easy that transition?
Nope. Definitely not, because it's very traumatizing. It took me literally months to like get over what I went through because I was so traumatized by, my friends, my past friends, I should say, family. Everybody was like against that will, like God's will, I believe, Everybody was against that because they were so accustomed to the old Jovitan. It's like the new Jovitan, the transformation of the new version of Jovitan was like a threat to them because they don't understand it. It's like they didn't understand the new side of Mina. So it was like different, like
but
it was a real dark walk.
You still refer to yourself as Jovitan. You're still Jovitan is still very much a part of who you are. Is that a reminder, still referring to yourself as Jovitan, is that a reminder of where you are, what you went through, what you came from, and
yes.
what you're doing now?
Yes, I believe so, because Jovitan is literally the worldly name that they have given to me. So although my mom, was the person who used to call me that when I was smaller, but it grew up with, it grew with me. And, within the music industry, it was just like Jovitan. And everything was just Jovitan. So, like, at this moment, I just look back and be like, this name just kind of put me back in a zone. It just put me back in a bubble that I came out from now, because I really, when people call me by my real name, which is Joe Von Lesbian, I just feel more free, if that makes sense. But when they call me Jovitan, it's like I still feel like some part of me is tied to this world still.
Mm-hmm. Final question to you, what would be your advice to young people who are wanting to get into Trinidad music? Because I'm not necessarily saying that it is all bad, but based off of your experiences, you're saying it's not a good thing at all. What would you say to them?
Well, my experience, besides my experience, right? Besides my experience, my advice, plain as day, would be that any upcoming artist that is, trying to pursue a career within the industry, Chinibad, and the Chinibad movement, is that think about it before you step into it, because they say, experience is the greatest teacher. And I've been there. So, use me as an experience, use me as a living testimony. I came out and saw the ins and outs. I saw everything. I saw the good and bad. I saw more bad than good, because it's like, you don't really have anything good about it, and it might sound weird because, a lot of people will be like, Joe Vuitton is just entertainment, it's just music. You can see, a lot of artists, but, watch at the movement. So my advice would be like, watch and ask and pray about it and ask God if this is something that, you would like to get into, because getting into this, movement is literally trying to subject, it's not trying to, but subjecting yourself and your career to entities, which is gangs. Because wherever you're from, it have a gang, and we all know where Trinidad is. Trinidad, all over his gang is 6, 7, 9 numbers, and every we are in Trinidad link with the heads. So it's like, no matter where you're from, wherever they are represented, you will have to represent there. And that is just the plain truth. That is why majority of the songs and them that coming out, and majority of the artists and them coming out of Trinidad dying or being subjected to a gang.
Siobhan Lapierre, Joe Vuitton, I want to thank you very much for joining me on the program this morning and being open enough to share your story, to share with us your journey. Very much appreciative of you doing that, and wishing you all the very best as you continue to forge ahead. Keep well, sir, and thank you once more.
Yes, bless.
Have a good day. Siobhan Lapierre, Joe Vuitton joining me on AM Prime this morning, speaking about the Trinidad movement and his transition out of it, embracing Christianity and all that he has gone through and is going through. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a break here on AM Prime for News on the Hour, and when we return, we'll have more conversations to get into. We'll be right back after this.
This is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Sean Michael Small. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Dr. Rowley noted that the region faced challenges and has risen to overcome them. Burns' body found in Caroni believed to be a U.S. citizen. Water taxi terminal in Port of Spain closing for 1 week. And internationally, Vietnam government bans popular Barbie movie. Now for the details. The Prime Minister, addressing the launch of the 45th regular meeting of CARICOM heads at the Hyatt Regency, Port of Spain on Monday evening, Dr. Rowley noted CARICOM's 50th anniversary, saying children should be taught its relevance and history. He said this regional family of nations can be proud of its 50 years of achievements. Dr. Rowley said the early steps taken in Chaguaramas has led the country far beyond what the naysayers and doomsayers were certain would have been a short lifespan and another disastrous shattering. He said, together the regional family of nations can examine with pride our achievements during the last half-century. Dr. Rowley noted that the region faced challenges and have risen to overcome them, despite the difficulties, through our cooperation, our shared goals, and above all else, through our friendship within CARICOM. The burnt body of a man was found in a car in Caroni on Monday night. The body is believed to be that of Gandhi Ramlachan, also known as Bobby. Police were told that Ramlachan is from Queens, New York, and came to Trinidad on Saturday to celebrate his birthday. A police report said that a nephew of Ramlachan went to the Piarco police station on Monday at around 6:30 p.m. to report his uncle missing. Ramlachan would have been celebrating his 66th birthday on July the 15th. Renovation works are to begin at the Port of Spain water taxi terminal on Wednesday, 5th of July, and as such, the building will be closed for a week until Wednesday, the 12th of July. NIDCO issued the advisory on the water taxi service on Tuesday and said that the passengers should use the San Fernando water taxi terminal to purchase tickets. Limited ticket sales will be accommodated aboard the vessels in Port of Spain for same-day travel only. Internationally, the Vietnam government banned distribution of the popular Barbie movie because it includes a view of a map showing disputed Chinese territorial claims in the South China Sea. The newspaper Vietnam Express and other media outlets said posters advertising Barbie were removed from the movie's distributors' websites after Monday's decision, with Margot Robbie playing Barbie opposite Ryan Gosling's Ken in Greta Gerwig's comedic look at their perfect world. Barbie was supposed to open July the 21st in Vietnamese theaters. Well, that's the news on the hour on WESN. I'm Sean Michael Small. Thanks for watching.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The best laptops and tablets are at dbesttoys.com. Get a Gateway 14.1-inch ultra-slim notebook or an HP 14-inch laptop at the best prices in TNT. Get the Fire 7 tablet for $474. You can also shop the latest Amazon Fire Sticks. Call now at 32-DBEST to order or visit us in-store at Forces flagship Mac Bean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Free delivery available throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Cash or links on delivery.
In a recent report by retired Justice Stanley John, with regard to a 5-month probe into the state's failure to defend a malicious claim by 9 men accused of kidnapping and murdering businesswoman Vindra Naipal Coolman in 2006. He stated in his report that there was a need for the restructuring of the Civil Law Department of the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs. Now, to speak about these recommendations, and by extension, the administrative side of the criminal justice system here in Trinidad and Tobago, I'm now joined by Attorney at Law Lawler with us via Zoom this morning. Hello, Mr. Lawler. Thank you very much for joining me.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me, and good morning to all your listeners.
Mr. Lawler, your thoughts on this particular recommendations with regards to restructuring of the Civil Law Department. Is it just rubber stamping something that has been known for quite some time now, or is it just refreshing to see that the problem has been identified?
Well, let's look at the context of why this report was prepared. The malicious prosecution case against the state for the prosecution of the persons charged in the Vindra Coolman matter was lost by the state by the inability to file a defense and deal with the matter. That amounted to the state having to pay in excess of $20 million in damages. It created a great public outcry as to how this travesty could take place. The Attorney General has challenged it, appealed it on the basis that there were internal problems that led to the avoidance of filing the defense, which clearly was through inadvertence or a failure by the internal mechanisms. As a result of that, the retired Justice Stanley John was appointed for the purposes of conducting an inquiry into the operations of the AG's department, the civil department operated by the state. his findings in part have been made public, which dealt with the computerization and the electronic recording of all matters that are in the state hands. Now, this is something, the problems that the state faces, not only in the civil arena, but more particularly in the criminal arena, is something that's not new to anyone who practices before the court. The volume of matters have evolved and have risen over the years, and there are inadequate systems within the civil departments to deal with the volume of matters. There are a lot of matters that are briefed out to private attorneys who assist the state, but the computerization is something that is not new. Since the advent of COVID, all filing of civil matters and in fact criminal proceedings are done electronically now. I think from the part of Justice John's report that's extracted was that if there's a better case management system that's electronically recorded, then there would be no gaps taking place where there'd be a failure to attend or deal with it or put in a defense, as in the case of Indra Kuhlman. Now, having a report prepared is nothing new. We've seen so many commissions of inquiry prepare reports every time something happens that creates public concern. We see reports being put on shelves and left there to gather dust over a period of time. So it's unfortunate that the report may not be made public. I know there's a cry for it to be made public, but I would imagine they're confidential parts of the operation of the civil system that the state may not want to make public. But unless there's a serious intention or a will to create the changes that many people are aware of, and I suspect are more detailed by Justice John's report, we're not going to see an advance of the system. And the slowing down of the administration of justice, be it criminal or civil, affects all participants, both litigants from the defense side and as well as the state. And it very often costs the taxpayers huge amounts of money that is expended and never recovered. We see the state spending every 5 years $1 billion in legal fees, and there's no proper accounting which matters could have been dealt with in a different way or quicker to avoid these costs. So again, we wait to see. Only the Attorney General would have the power to implement, and only if there's a remarkable change in the way things are done will we see the implementation. I doubt very much the state would come out and say we're actually putting a computerized system or what the nature of the system would be. But it's of grave concern to everyone who's part of the judicial administrative system to see this change.
If there are issues that have been constantly identified, you mentioned a willingness to actually fix these flaws. Is that in itself, the lack of a will, the reason why there are constant bureaucratic delays from the Office of the Attorney General?
Well, the problem is sometimes the will is overwhelmed by the structure, the public service, the funding that is required. But these are problems that unless the judiciary or the administration of justice, being the DPP's department, the Attorney General's office, takes a very dispassionate view as to how they can advance the system and recognize and treat with the problems, it's not going to be dealt with. We've seen recently the cries of the Director of Public Prosecutions for more staff, a completely understaffed department that is unable to treat the volume of cases, slowing down the entire criminal justice system. Now, lip service is paid as to whether attorneys are going to be appointed or not. There has been some movement towards recruitment, but we have waited for the horse to bolt in the DPP's department and for a crisis to be emerged, and now trying in a knee-jerk reaction to say you fill vacancies. That's not the way to deal with the administration of justice. That dispassionate view of recognizing where your deficiencies are and fixing it and finding whatever methods have to be employed to implement it is what is required. The Attorney General's office is also understaffed. The volume of work now is very different than 10 or 15 years ago. You still have the same complement of lawyers. So inevitably, you can't manage the volume based on the lawyers that you have. And the problem of the DPP's office, as Roger Gaspard had said recently, as well as in the civil department, is that many of the senior lawyers move on for a variety of reasons, whether it's retirement, better packages, better opportunities. So at the base, you have a lot of very young attorneys coming in who unfortunately have to pay their dues to gain the experience, to have the ability to manage a lot of the more serious matters. So again, these things don't happen overnight, and we see it being bantered around, and the public suffers as a result of these failures. And it takes a great deal of will and an intention on the part of the authorities and those who have the power to treat with it. And it should never be a politicized issue. Administration of justice has to always be an independent issue that the public has the confidence to treat with it as an independent issue and not having any tentacles of politics entering into it.
Mm-hmm. If it is the case that the system has been left this way, Commission of Inquiry, its reports are nothing new. We've had lip service. These reports are sometimes referred to as plasters. If that is the case, is the system deliberately designed this way?
Well, I don't think it's deliberately designed this way. I think what has happened over the years, if we will look, at the most glaring example, which is the criminal justice system, which I think everyone is most concerned about now. 30 years ago, or 20 years ago, when the system and infrastructure was put in place, you had far less crimes being committed, far less matters being prosecuted. You have an increased volume over the years of both civil and criminal matters, and a structure that is inadequate to deal with the volume of matters. The civil arena, for example, there's a volume of cases that involve freedom of information. That is where there's an act, Freedom of Information Act, that allows you citizens to make applications to state entities for information that they require on particular matters. So it's disclosure, whether it's documents or otherwise. Very often the state, their advice is to ignore it. These matters end up going to court. The law is settled. The matters very often result in the state having to concede and provide this information. These matters, which are many in numbers, clog the system. But again, it's the administration of how do you treat with these matters. And recognizing, and the persons who are in charge of these departments are all very senior, have been in practice over 30 years, are well aware of what I'm telling you. But it's to have the will to say, listen, how do we now address these problems that we all are aware of, rather than allowing the wheels of justice to operate so slowly? I must say the civil justice system has received a lot of attention in the last few years, and the turnaround of cases is a lot faster than maybe 5 years ago. So you can probably have a matter heard and determined within a 2-year time frame, whereas in the past it might have taken 5 or 7 years. And there's been a recent appointment of several judges to the civil arena who will also expedite matters moving a lot faster. The bigger problem that exists is the criminal arena, the appointment of judges, and the setting up of more courts to deal with the volume of matters that exist.
Therefore, you've just mentioned one, I think, major improvement with regards to the civil aspect in terms of the administration of justice. In that regard, have there been improvements overall? Could we make the argument that there have been at least some efforts to try and improve the systems? I know that we've separated civil and criminal, understandably so. But from both sides, have there been efforts?
Well, there certainly has been a will and an effort. Whether it is sufficient, whether it's adequate, is another issue. But if we were to take the civil arena, for example, the courts, as many people would remember, the whole of justice housed both criminal and civil. The civil courts have now been removed entirely to the waterfront. So new courts have been created, and there's a complete physical separation of criminal and civil. There's a faster rate, as I explained, in terms of the hearing of civil matters. Judges are more minded to have matters pushed into mediation. There's a greater effort in case management for matters to to be dealt with upfront in terms of looking at the legal issues and trying to see if matters could be resolved. So certainly efforts have been made, and there are improvements in that regard. The criminal arena, there are still major problems, and the major problems remain the understaffing of the DPP's office, the operation of the courts in person once again. Remember, most civil matters are still heard virtually. Most trials are conducted virtually, although you can opt to have your trial held in person. But criminal matters, they are running still at a snail's pace because of COVID, and the backlog has increased considerably. Preliminary inquiries could not take place or were at a very limited level during COVID, which caused a major backlog. For example, a lot of COVID cases, not wearing your mask, failing to comply with COVID regulations, are still hundreds of cases before the courts that are going to cause those backlogs. But I know there's an intention of trying to expedite matters. There's a case management system in the criminal arena, such as the civil arena, meant to expedite, but it's far short of the civil arena. The backlog in the criminal arena, it still can take you 10 years to have a murder case determined.
Are you referring to the Administration of Justice Indictable Proceedings Amendment Bill?
There's a case management aspect to both civil and criminal, which allows matters to be dissected before it reaches trial, that allows a judge to determine whether it's ready for hearing or not. The problem in the criminal arena is that although the system is in place, the mechanisms to allow the fast tracking of cases do not apply. So what is happening now is you have a volume of matters that are all backlogged. You need more judges, you need more DPP staff, you need the reopening of the courts now that COVID is at an end to have these matters fast tracked. A lot of effort has been put in the High Court, but the Magistrates Court, where most citizens would interact one way or another, from a traffic ticket, go all the way up to even serious offenses, is woefully lacking in terms of the support that they require. You still have 50 or 100 matters before a magistrate on a morning, magistrates having to decipher through long lists before they can probably allocate an hour to the hearing of a matter. So it's a volume that has created problems, and the lack of resources to deal with the volume of cases that have emerged before us.
About 4 months ago, we heard from the Director of Public Prosecutions, who publicly stated that the criminal justice system could collapse. 4 months later, have you seen any efforts to improve such? I know you've mentioned that there was some hints of recruiting staff for the office of the DPP, and I know you've also said whether or not it is sufficient. 4 months later, are we still where we're at when such statements were made?
Well, the Director of Public Prosecution statement is very valid. If you don't have lawyers who can manage the prosecution of cases, matters tend to just be adjourned. And I've seen it from day to day where the DPP's department comes without resources. Lawyers come often receiving the brunt of the judges or the magistrates for not being having conduct of files, but there's an inadequate supply of lawyers in the DPP's office to deal with the volume of cases. And again, the recruiting process is going to recruit young lawyers, more than likely, who will require training before they can be put out and before matters can be properly dealt with. So you have, again, a volume of cases with a very small number of lawyers who cannot deal with the volume. And magistrates and judges are well aware of this. Until the DPP's office is provided with the resources it requires and it gets to the complement it needs, the criminal justice system is going to continue to operate very slowly. And that is unfortunate when we consider crime is probably the #1 issue in the country, and we have a desire on the part of the public to have matters dealt with expeditiously so that the wheels of justice can become a deterrent to people committing crimes. But when a person is aware that it may take a year, 5 years, 10 years for a matter to be determined, it's no longer a deterrent. So again, it is something that you have to take the will, and it's an operating system. It's not not only the civil arena, it's the criminal arena, it's the prison system, it's the police service. It is all arms of the administration of justice have to complement each other for us to get this right.
Mr. Lala, my final question to you. We've separated civil, criminal, and thank you very much for explaining and going into detail. This is something that has not happened overnight, and I don't think it could be fixed overnight. But speaking from the aspect of reality, how long do you think this will take to actually try and resolve all these issues? There have been bureaucratic delays, perhaps a lack of willingness, or even if there is willingness, it's not insufficient. Is it going to be easy to resolve these issues?
Well, it's not rocket science. The Commonwealth has legal systems that mirror each other, and there are systems that could be put in place. Anyone who is in the administration of justice on whichever side understands what the deficiencies are, but it comes back to the will. It's no different than flooding or any of the other issues that take place. You know what the problem is, and you know what the solutions are, but are you going to implement it? Until we take a decision to put aside differences and seriously address the issues to get an efficient running system, we're going to always be lacking behind. So it's up to those who have the power and the authority to enact the changes to do so. And it can be done. This is not, again, rocket science, that it's an impossible task. But again, we wait and see and hope, and these public matters and the debate and the public becoming aware of it is critical, because these are the issues that push those in authorities to act. And the awareness is critical, as you're doing on this program, so that people understand that, listen, if you can put the pressure to get the system working, we all benefit from it.
I was actually just going to ask you whether or not you think that the public is truly aware as per the situation.
And I don't think so. I think very often it's marred by the complicated rhetoric of those in power, and people don't realize, it's not broken down in a very simple manner so that people understand. And bear in mind, every citizen, whether directly or indirectly, somehow interacts with the criminal or civil justice system at some stage in their life. So it does affect us all, and we should all have vested interest in making sure that it works properly.
Well, Mr. Lala, thank you very much for joining on the program this morning, and thank you very much. You mentioned awareness, and for doing your part to try and educate the public and share with them information that very much could be easily digested. I thank you very much, sir, and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a great day.
Have a great day. That was Attorney at Law Lala joining me on AM Prime this morning. I'm very much appreciative. He has broken it down from the Civil Law Department, and you can see that there have been some improvements, bigger issues coming out of the Criminal Justice Department, and that's it needs to be resolved. There has been some willingness. It is insufficient. It's not rocket science, as Mr. Lala mentioned, but it's a matter of having to put aside differences to try and resolve these issues. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for AM Prime, and thank you very much for joining me this morning. The weather isn't too bad this morning, so I hope it's a good day ahead. But whatever you do, always be careful, always be safe, and do your part to make Trinidad and Tobago a bit sweeter. You can join us for more conversations from 8 a.m. for Talking Point. But for AM Prime, that's it until tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. For now, have a great day. Bye-bye.
The best for your baby is at dbesttoys.com. We have the best strollers, car seats, walkers, feeding accessories, playpens, cribs, clothing, and the widest range of brand name toys like Barbie, Hot Wheels, Nerf, LOL, Fisher-Price, Cocomelon, Intex pools, Amazon Fire tablets, HP and Gateway laptops, and the best bikes, scooters, skateboards, and ride-on. Visit us in-store at Southern Main Road, McBean, or shop online now at dbesttoys.com. That's dbesttoys.com. We have the best toys at the best prices.
Young at heart, purpose-driven, patriot even. When you like to party, but are still passionate about discussing important issues, the only place where your needs will be met is WESN Content Capital.
I am Rondell Donowa, and you are watching WESN, the Content Capital.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the Content Capital.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andy.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go